Morning. Today we're going to be talking about chaos. So this is going to be a fun one. Sometimes when you're feeling stuck in your life, especially as it relates to chasing a goal, if you feel like you're not making progress, if you feel like you're in a mundane routine, kind of just going through the motions and you're not really progressing, it can be extremely beneficial to introduce some chaos. However, you've got to be careful in going about this the right way. So in this maybe 4.5 minute video, I'm going to explain to you what I mean by chaos, how to introduce it effectively, and then how to get the most out of it to get what you want. And then lastly, I'll probably share an extreme example of this in my own life. So first things first, what is chaos? So when I say chaos, I mean getting completely out of your comfort zone. Basically, abandoning all forms of structure and routine and actions that you're normally taking. Basically, throw all of that to the wayside for a bit and completely change what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Bonus points if you can change your environment, but realistically, you want to basically alter the way that you're living your life completely. Now, as to why the hell you should do this, just bear with me for 40 seconds while I explain just kind of the rest of these points. Because I promise you, it makes a lot of sense and you will get a tremendous amount of benefit from it. And it's also extremely fun. Okay, so we know what chaos is, right? It's completely getting out of our comfort zone. If we have a routine, it'd be basically doing the inverse of that routine. If you're a morning person, become a night owl. If you're extremely extroverted, go stay in a cabin in the woods by yourself for a week. If you're extremely introverted, go get an Airbnb in a massive city and go to a bunch of social events and really get yourself out there. The point is, you want to completely alter your way of life, temporarily relax, and just get out of your comfort zone and introduce what you would otherwise, what the current version of yourself who's stuck in the motions and the routine would consider complete chaos. So now, when should you do this? I want to make this extremely clear. You should not introduce chaos when things are going extremely well in your life. When you're in an upward spiral, you've got really positive momentum and you're just crushing it. Do not introduce a ton of chaos into your life at this point. That'd be very, very stupid. You want to introduce a lot of chaos when you're feeling stuck, when you don't necessarily know what you want. Maybe you feel like you're misaligned with your purpose, or you feel like you're not on the right path that's leading you towards your purpose. You're questioning things, you have uncertainty, your belief isn't that strong, your resolve isn't that strong. It's usually when you're feeling this way over a prolonged period of time. Like if you just have an off day where you're feeling, kind of don't just book a flight to Cabo and completely go nuts because you felt off your game for one day. This is, if you've been feeling off for weeks, months, multiple months in a row consecutively, and it's a theme and kind of a lingering thing in the back of your head. So just wanted to make that clear in case some idiot has a bad day and decides to go on the bender. That's not what we're doing. All right, we know what chaos is. We know when we should do it. Now, how do we do it? The most effective way to do it, in my opinion, is just to completely switch up your environment. Completely. And this will make total sense when I share some of the extreme ways that I've done this in the past. But that would be the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is just go get an Airbnb in a random location for just a short period of time. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. If you can't travel because you're working your job or whatever, just switch up your routine as best you can and introduce new stimuli and things that are completely out of the ordinary within your life. Because you want to create, as much novelty as possible and basically forget all of the routines and habits and behaviors that you were originally, kind of going through, because we want to introduce new thoughts and new perspectives and different things like that, which I'll explain in a sec. Easiest way to do it for sure is just going to be a heavy switch up on your environment, because your environment is going to influence all these things. It's going to influence who you're hanging out with, what you do, where you go, how you're thinking. It's just a kind of kill switch for chaos. The reason for this is because, in my opinion, it overwhelms your senses. So like if you touch down in a city or a country that you've never been to, you are so much more alert. You're taking in all these new things because everything is brand new. So your brain is working on overdrive. It's really, really firing because you're in a completely new place. You know, biologically, maybe it has something to do with the fact that like, hey, if we're not in the cave, we could get absolutely wrecked out here. So your brain is firing on all cylinders. You're way more attentive. You're way more alert. And this applies both internally. So like what's going on in your mind and just the way that you're thinking. And then obviously externally, like everything is just new around you. You haven't seen this stuff before. So for that reason, the environment is just such a great way to do it. And aside from the environment, to add to it, just switch up your behaviors, switch up your routines, switch up your priorities. Like we're talking about chaos here. Like most of you are probably sitting there in your upward spiral, having good momentum, thinking, Walker, this doesn't make any sense. Why would I do this? Again, if you're crushing it right now, don't do this. Like this is if you are stuck and this is if your car battery is dead and you need Big Walk to come up with the cables and just shock you into like clarity. That's the only time that you want to do this. So you want to let this new routine and this new environment absorb you, and you want to become absorbed in this new environment and this new routine. And so now I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples actually of how I've done this in my own life and how it's just completely altered my trajectory in both instances. So the first instance was back in 2020 with the COVID. So I was in college. I was a junior. I was a junior in college, finishing up my second semester. And I was on spring break snowboarding in Telluride with a couple buddies. This was March. This was right before my birthday, right as like started to hit the fan. And then while I was in Telluride, I separated my shoulder because I completely ate while snowboarding. And the injury mixed with the chaos of COVID-19 just happened to be the perfect blend of just like, okay, rather than going back to Tucson where everybody's going to be going nuts, partying, going crazy, my shoulder's wrecked. The world may be ending. Like, I'm just going to go back to my mom's place. And that's what I did. I went back to my mom's house, basically moved back in until this whole situation resolved itself, or until we had clarity around what the next steps were going to look like. And that was a complete shift in literally everything. I went from being like a college maniac, like very social, cool, arguably, a hard switch to just living back with my mom, can't go out to bars, can't socialize, can't do any of that stuff. It was complete and utter contrast to the life that I'd been living up to that point. And so what this allowed me to do was view my life that I was living, specifically the one that I had for the past 3 years in college. It allowed me to view that from a completely different perspective. And I really took a look at what I was doing and the trajectory that I was on. And I honestly just got freaked out. I didn't like the person that I was becoming. I didn't like where this path was leading me down. I wanted a lot of nice things. I was exposed to a lot of nice shit when I was young, not via my family, just via different opportunities. So I was aware that like there are people out here living life at levels the likes of which some people can't even comprehend. And I was like, I want that for myself. And I always thought that, you know, that would just happen and it would kind of just figure itself out and I would end up in those scenarios. But in COVID, when I really had the time to reflect and I was completely, again, on a completely different kind of wavelength, I really started to realize that number one, I'm going to have to get myself there. And number two, with the trajectory that I'm on, that ain't where I'm ending up. To sum it all up, I implemented an entirely new set of thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, habits, literally everything, because I completely redefined what I wanted to get out of life and where I wanted to end up, who I wanted to become, and just took an honest look at where I was at that time. Now, that's not to say, like, don't get me wrong. If you're enjoying college and having an amazing experience, like fantastic. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If you're living a super rigid, structured life and you hate your job, you hate what you're doing, like inversing to the college type lifestyle may be the best thing that you could do at this time. Like realistically, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just whatever works for you. And in relation to what you want out of this life. So you got to know kind of what you want, because obviously that's the only way that you're going to know whether you're moving towards it or not, and whether this exercise is going to be useful or not. Second example of when I implemented this into my own life, it was actually not this year, but last year, 2023. I had scaled the company with my previous business partner, Nick Verge. Shout out Nick. He's a beast, cool copywriter, stand-up guy. We had been working on a company and, long story short, decided not to continue scaling it because it wasn't the right avatar that we were working on, yada, yada, yada. And so I basically just took the entire summer off. Like I didn't work for like 3 months straight. And, you know, I had plenty of cash stacked up and didn't really have a reason to work. And I was living a great lifestyle. So I was just like, I'm just gonna chill for a bit. So that's exactly what I did. And I got into just still a routine because I was in my hometown of Scottsdale. But, you know, I was going through the motions of just kind of hanging out. And I started to just kind of get some angst of just like, well, where am I really headed? And I introduced some chaos by sending it out to Italy for a very dear friend's wedding. And I bought a one-way flight out there and had full intention of just traveling around and just kind of figuring it out. Like indirectly introducing some chaos into my life. Bought a one-way flight, hit the wedding, then traveled around Italy for a week, and then hit another couple spots in Italy for another week. And then I went to Dubai. I wanted to go to Dubai. I had told everybody I was going to do it. I think they all thought I was full of shit. But me and a buddy of mine bought our flights to Dubai and sent it from Italy to Dubai. And we were there for a couple weeks. And it was extremely chaotic. Like we didn't really have any of our places lined up. I knew some people out there that like, it was honestly just a chaotic, adventurous experience. It induced everything that I wanted it to induce. And I got everything that I was looking for out of the trip. It allowed me to completely zoom out of the life that I was living, the trajectory that I was on, completely get clear on my priorities and what I actually wanted, what I needed to do to get there. And yeah, then you just go back, settle back into your routine. Now, there's going to be a big caveat to this, which is the fact that when you get to a certain level, this is going to be viewed as childish. For example, you can't always run away from your problems to go try and figure them out. And especially when you have other people that are going to be depending upon you. And at this stage, you're a protector, a provider, and you've got other responsibilities outside of your own self-interest. It's going to be very unfair to the other people in your life to introduce a ton of chaos. So at this point, I think where it'll evolve to eventually, at least within my own life, is just that I can do it on a much smaller scale and still get all the benefits. So instead of, going to Singapore for a month and completely altering everything in my life, I can just kind of switch up some of my day-to-days and get the same exact benefits and pull new perspective and insight. In summary, if you're feeling stuck and you don't know where you're at, introducing a bit of chaos at this point may honestly be a really good thing for you. So I'll just leave you with that quick video that I wanted to shoot in between shooting this How to Get What You Want Out of Life series, which is going to resume over the next couple of videos. So yeah, in case you were wondering, I did order the boom mic arm, so I'm not going to be using this stand for much longer. I think it ships on Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.